During one argument, Ethan Walker slapped me hard across the face, right in front of everyone. From that moment on, I firmly broke off the engagement that had been arranged between us since childhood. Everyone was stunned. Wasn't I always the little shadow who clung to him from the time we were kids? How could I suddenly be so ruthless? How dare she? Why would she call off the engagement? He looked at me in disbelief. Why not cancel it? Once I discovered before marriage that my fiancé was nothing but a piece of trash, what reason did I have to keep him, just to celebrate the holidays together? I rolled my eyes and replied coldly. The moment Ethan swung his hand and struck my face, I was completely dumbfounded, not even understanding what had just happened. A sharp crack rang out as my whole body staggered back several steps. My right cheek burned as if it were on fire, and my ears buzzed until the entire classroom turned into chaos. I covered the swollen red half of my face with one hand, glaring at him in horror and fury. "Why are you bullying a new classmate like that? Lisa Miller, get back to your seat." The teacher's sharp voice rang out. Ethan seemed to realize what he had just done, and for a split second, guilt and regret flickered across his expression. But almost immediately, his anger surged back, crushing everything else. Several gasps echoed through the room, followed by waves of murmurs and gossip. Most of them just stood around as if they were watching a circus. "Ethan, go coax your little fiancée. She's about to cry." Lucy Sanders narrowed her eyes, her tone mocking and dripping with sarcasm. "If Nina Foster wants to cry, she can go home and cry. This is school, not the place for whining. Don't disturb everyone else's studying." Hearing those cruel words, tears welled up in my eyes, but I bit them back. At that moment, feeling wronged or angry was useless. "Calm down, Nina Foster. You can do this." I told myself I would not shed a single tear in front of that bastard. I turned and walked straight to the teacher's office. "Nina, what happened to you? Your face is all swollen. Who hit you?" Mr. Lee asked in shock. "Sir, may I borrow your phone for a moment? I want to call my dad." Displeased at the sight of my disheveled state, Mr. Lee only furrowed his brow slightly but didn't ask further, quietly handing me his phone. Standing at the office door, I borrowed his phone to open the surveillance recording of the scene and sent it directly to my mom. Only then did I dial my father, my tone strangely calm. "Dad, please come pick me up immediately. I want to go home." He only replied with a single, "Okay." I hung up right away, then stepped inside to return the phone, bowing to thank him. Mr. Lee patiently asked about my condition. I just said softly, "My head hurts a little. May I have permission to go home and rest?" Knowing I was always obedient and rarely asked for anything, yet seeing how determined I was this time, he said nothing more and wrote me a leave slip. Ethan Walker and I were childhood friends, neighbors who grew up side by side. Because our families were so close, one year our mothers half-jokingly, half-seriously said that if one were a boy and the other a girl, they should be engaged to each other. And just like that, it was settled. Even our names were given to sound alike on purpose. From the time I was little, I always knew I would grow up to marry Ethan. He looked after me in every small way. When classmates bullied me, he would jump in and fight them off. He often carried my school bag, and when I struggled with math, he patiently tutored me. I still remember clearly the day we both passed into the same high school. His eyes shone with joy as he hugged me and spun me around, saying happily, "Let's work hard so we can get into the same college together, okay, Nina?" Back then, in my naive heart, I thought those words were his confession. So when his mother came to my house and asked if I would become her daughter-in-law, I was overjoyed when his mother personally handed me the family heirloom jade bracelet. I carefully tucked it close to my heart, believing our marriage was already a certainty. I even dreamed of the wedding day, imagining I would wear that bracelet as proof of the years of affection between us. I loved his long, narrow phoenix eyes, the slight lift of his thin lips, and the way he strode confidently with his hands in his pockets, head held high and proud in the crowd. Just one glance and I could recognize him anywhere. But once we entered high school, youth and rebellion began to show, and he no longer cared for the little shadow who always followed him around. Before, his gaze had been filled with indulgence whenever he saw me. Then one day he said coldly, "Nina, from now on after class, don't come looking for me to hang out. My friends keep teasing me. Yet even so, he still walked home with me after school as before. I could clearly feel that. At the beginning of 10th grade, Ethan Walker's gaze lingered on me longer and longer. He would often smile at me for no reason and excitedly talk about all sorts of plans for the university we would get into together. That lasted until the first semester of 11th grade, when a transfer student joined our class. Her name was Lisa Miller. She was beautiful, radiant, outgoing, and carefree, the complete opposite of my calm and reserved nature. I heard from classmates that she had transferred because of conflicts with students at her old school. On her very first day, she smiled brightly at the homeroom teacher and said, "Teacher, may I sit next to Ethan Walker? I don't know anyone here." Wanting to take care of the new student, my seat was given up to her. But my goodwill wasn't repaid. The moment I stood up, right there in front of the entire class and the teacher, Lisa deliberately raised her eyebrows and said mockingly to Ethan, "So this is your delicate little fiancé?" Instantly, astonished eyes turned toward me. My face flushed crimson, my heart pounded wildly. I had never told anyone about our engagement, so how did she know? That was the first time in my life I felt surrounded by people, staring at me like I was a joke. Humiliated and embarrassed, I wished I could sink into the ground. It was just a joke between our parents when we were little. Don't take it seriously, Ethan frowned slightly, speaking helplessly. At that moment, my heart froze. So, in his eyes, everything I cherished was nothing more than the playful words of adults. "Sorry, I'm straightforward and say what I think. Don't take it to heart, little princess," Lisa added, feigning guilt but sounding careless. I said nothing more, silently gathering my books and moving to the back row, taking the empty seat beside the class president. From the middle row, I was pushed all the way to the back of the classroom. That day after school, I sat in the back seat of his bike. After a long silence, he asked, "Did you and Lisa know each other before?" Ethan answered casually, "We're not close. We've only met a few times." "Only a few times? Then how did she know I was his fiancé?" The thought startled me, but I chose not to ask further. Back then, I still had enough confidence, still naive enough to believe Ethan was just as steadfast as I was. I thought the feelings we had shared for so many years were a bond so strong that nothing could shake it. Only much later did I realize that the signs of change had been there all along. I was simply too foolish, deceiving myself into believing he would never change. From that day on, Lisa became his desk mate, and their relationship grew closer. I naively thought it was nothing more than ordinary friendship, until one day, I saw the keychain I had given Ethan hanging from Lisa's school bag. I stared at it for a long time, feeling as though someone had stabbed me hard in the chest. Lisa noticed and only smiled faintly, utterly unfazed. "Oh dear, sorry, little delicate princess. Ethan gave this to me," Lisa Miller said with a smirk. "Honestly, I don't even like it. I just didn't want to refuse a classmate's gift." The moment I heard her call him Ethan, so casually and intimately, my chest tightened until I could hardly breathe. But I forced down the fury rising inside me and replied with an icy tone, "You really like giving people nicknames, don't you?" Her expression immediately darkened. Clearly, she hadn't expected me to strike back. "Ha, is it really that serious? You can't even handle a little joke? No wonder you're such a fragile princess. Girls like you are such a pain. I can't stand dealing with that type." I sneered coldly. "And I can't stand girls who pretend to be straightforward but are just as scheming as anyone else. Do me a favor and stay away from me. Thanks." Ethan, realizing we were on the verge of a real fight, quickly stepped in, trying to smooth things over. "Nina, what are you saying? Lisa didn't mean anything by it. And what does that have to do with you?" I cut him off sharply, my voice trembling with suppressed anger. In that moment, I truly thought to myself, a boy like him was not someone I needed. Ethan had never seen me lose my temper like that before, and he panicked, blurting out, "Nina, it's my fault, don't be mad. I just lent it to her for a few days. I didn't give it away. She was only joking. That's just how Lisa is. She likes to tease too much." Hearing him say that, Lisa's face went pale in an instant. That afternoon after school, I refused to sit on the back of Ethan's bicycle. I was about to call a taxi home instead when he rushed after me, apologizing repeatedly. His flustered expression eventually softened my heart. Deep down, though, I already knew. Lisa definitely had feelings for him. It was only me who foolishly placed too much faith in the years of affection between us, thinking my place in Ethan's heart was higher than it truly was. From then on, Lisa's tone toward me was always half sarcastic, half mocking. One time, when I lifted a cup of water to drink, she deliberately made a show of laughing and sneering. Of course, the princess's cup is different from ours. Only a rich family could raise such a spoiled little princess. I didn't bother to respond. I knew full well that summer cicadas could never understand the snow of winter. Arguing with someone like her was nothing but a waste of time. Another time, it was my turn for classroom duty. After sweeping and tidying up, I used a wet towel to wipe my hands and applied a bit of lotion. Lisa, spotting this as if it were a treasure, immediately called over a group of boys and said mockingly, "Look at the fragile princess. Even after cleaning, she has to use hand cream." The boys all burst out laughing. I forced myself to act as though I hadn't heard them. Ethan, who was standing nearby, finally seemed uneasy for the first time and gently reminded her, "Lisa, don't always pick on Nina." But Lisa only hooked her arm through his and said playfully, "Ethan, I'm just helping Nina fit in. She's always studying so hard. I'm just trying to get her to relax a little. And sure, she can be a bit of a princess, but aren't all girls like that?" Ethan chuckled, and Lisa immediately tightened her hold on his arm, saying in a mock coquettish tone, "Don't you dare compare me to them, Ethan. I hate those kinds of girls who throw a tantrum and storm off the moment they hear something they don't like." Ethan laughed awkwardly, waving his hands in surrender. Watching the two of them openly mock and criticize me together, I understood clearly that I needed to be decisive. Otherwise, I'd only invite more humiliation. As uncomfortable as it was, I reminded myself that because of the bond between our families, even if Ethan was no longer my fiancé, at the very least, he was still a childhood friend. So, under their constant ridicule, I gradually forced myself to accept the changes. Ethan still kept one small habit. Every night, he would take my cup home and bring it back filled with hot water the next morning. But one morning, when I opened the lid to take a sip, a strong smell of milk hit my nose instead. That greasy, sickly smell made me nauseous instantly. My empty stomach churned violently, and my throat burned dry as if I would throw up at any moment. Lisa Miller watched me with an icy face and even scolded. "What a pig! You don't even know how to appreciate good feed. I gave you some milk and you can't even drink it, gagging like that. So ungrateful." I tried to hold it back, but the stench made my knees buckle as wave after wave of nausea hit me. Just then, Ethan Walker strode over, his expression dark as he snapped at her. "Nina is allergic to milk. Why would you pour it into her cup?" His voice was low and furious. Lisa gave an innocent shrug and replied carelessly, "How was I supposed to know she's allergic? I didn't finish mine, so I poured her half the carton. No need to get so mad." I glared at Ethan, my voice cold as ice. Why was my cup in her hands in the first place? He flinched, guilt flashing across his face. "Nina, I'm sorry. Yesterday Lisa said she could help you get water, so I gave her your cup." Hearing that, I didn't waste another word. I tossed the cup, barely used for a month, straight into the trash can. My face expressionless, I told him firmly, "Transfer me 89 yuan, that'll cover the cup. And from now on, don't ever bother getting me water again." Ethan's face stiffened, and after a long moment of embarrassment, he left. As soon as the money hit my WeChat account, I blocked him without hesitation. From that day forward, I no longer went to or from school with him. I rode my own bike. Once, he angrily stopped me, demanding, "Nina Foster, why aren't you riding with me anymore?" I answered calmly, "Ethan Walker, I hope from now on you and Lisa Miller can keep your distance from me." He actually laughed. "Nina, are you jealous?" he asked, smirking as if testing me. I replied icily, "From now on, call me by my full name. I don't want to have anything to do with you two flies." His face twisted and he spat back, "Nina Foster, you said it yourself. Don't regret it." Then he turned on his heel and left, deliberately slamming the book in his hand to the ground. He was completely out of control. At that time, I was already in my senior year. Nothing was more important than preparing for the college entrance exam. I ignored Lisa's snide remarks and poured all my energy into studying, refusing to waste time arguing. The next day, Ethan showed up in class with his face bruised and swollen, clearly beaten. I heard he had been cornered in the alley near school. There were no cameras there. He reported it to the police, but since no one could identify the attackers, the case went nowhere. I had no idea which mysterious night had struck on my behalf, but seeing him like that filled me with such satisfaction I almost wanted to applaud. During winter break, I deliberately stayed at my aunt's house in Beijing, only returning for the start of the new semester. I didn't want to see Ethan Walker or Lisa Miller at all. Once school began, I made a point of avoiding them. I arrived early in the morning and lingered after class, doing extra homework before heading home. A few times Ethan waited for me outside my house, but I acted as if I didn't see him. To keep from running into him, I simply rode with my dad instead. Maybe he really was angry then, because he stopped trying to coax me altogether and started spending even more time with Lisa. I continued to ignore them as if nothing existed between us. But some people can't resist dancing in front of you just to cause trouble. One day after class, I returned from the restroom and suddenly caught sight of Lisa Miller pouring something unknown into my cup of water. I shouted at once, "Lisa Miller, what are you doing?" Normally I spoke softly, so when the whole class saw me explode with anger, the air went deathly silent. I was just adding some water for you," Lisa stammered, avoiding my gaze. "Water? Since when does water have color? Were you trying to poison me?" I shot back. "Don't talk nonsense, Nina. I just poured in some fresh milk," she muttered. My voice shook with fury. "You knew perfectly well I'm allergic to milk, and you still poured it into my cup on purpose. If that's not poisoning, then what is?" My voice rang out sharp and clear in the dead silence, every word echoing in the room. The look in everyone's eyes toward Lisa Miller shifted instantly. She panicked, stammering, "Don't talk nonsense. I was just joking. Can't you handle a little fun?" "Lisa Miller, I remember very clearly I once told you to stay away from me. I never liked you. And yet today you dared to pour milk into my hot cup. You call this a joke? This is clearly attempted poisoning. Nina, don't go too far. Lisa only likes to joke around. Don't use her friendship with me as an excuse to pick a fight." Ethan Walker stepped forward protectively, without hesitation. I stared straight at him and said coldly, each word deliberate, "Ethan Walker, your family background is ordinary, your looks are ordinary, your vision is ordinary. The only thing you had to be proud of was your grades, and even now, they're not as good as mine. So where do you get the confidence to think I should be grateful to someone who just tried to poison me?" Then I turned and shouted at Lisa, my voice cutting like ice, "Were you trying to poison me?" At those words, Ethan's face turned black with rage. He raised his hand and slapped me hard across the face. The entire class froze. The air was suffocatingly silent, except for the circle of students watching as though it were a performance. "Lisa only poured some milk into your cup. You didn't drink it. Nothing happened. How long are you going to keep making a scene?" Ethan barked. I looked at him and said only one thing, "Just wait." Then I spun around and walked out of the classroom. I borrowed a teacher's phone to call my dad and went straight to the school gate to wait. Within minutes, my father's car pulled up. Before it had even stopped fully, my mother jumped out of the passenger seat. The moment she saw my disheveled appearance, she wrapped me tightly in her arms, her voice trembling with fury. "That bastard Ethan dared to hit my daughter? Let me go teach him a lesson." I drew in a deep breath, my voice calm, almost eerily so. "Mom, I want to deal with him myself." I hadn't expected myself to feel so composed in that moment, but maybe it was because of Ethan's cruel words that I should cry at home if I wanted to cry. Somehow, they burned away all my weakness. Was a piece of trash like him even worth my tears? If I didn't send him to where he truly belonged today, then I didn't deserve to bear the foster name. At the police station, I stood tall and spoke clearly. "Hello, officer. I'm a student at No. 1 Experimental High School. My name is Nina Foster. 2 classmates of mine have repeatedly assaulted and humiliated me. One of them even put harmful substances into my cup. I would like to file charges. Can you open a case for me?" A young policewoman looked at the red handprint still burning across my cheek, her eyes full of pity. She immediately helped me file the report. My father sent over all the classroom surveillance footage to the police as evidence. I turned to the officer and asked, "Ma'am, do I get an official receipt for the case? I'm feeling dizzy and nauseous. I've already sent you the classroom footage. Could you, according to procedure, help me apply for a medical injury assessment?" She nodded patiently and handed me a paper. "This is the case acceptance form. You can now go to the City People's Hospital for a forensic examination. Stay strong, young lady. You're very brave." My parents stood beside me, watching as I calmly handled everything step by step. I saw both pain and pride in their eyes. The daughter they had always sheltered in their hands was suddenly strong enough to stand on her own. At the hospital, I went into the bathroom first, spinning around several times until I was dizzy and seeing stars. Only then did I enter the examination room. Once the doctor learned it was for an injury report, he conducted a meticulous exam, carefully photographing my swollen red face. After a series of tests, he gave his conclusion: a concussion. My parents clutched the report tightly and took it straight to the police before finally bringing me home. My father didn't say a word, but the pain and fury in his eyes told me clearly just how angry he was. My parents looked at my swollen red face with such sorrow that their eyes brimmed with tears. I hugged my mother gently and whispered, as if to reassure her, "Don't worry, Mom. I'm fine. Can we cancel the engagement? I don't want to ever see Ethan Walker again." Her eyes were red with both pain and pity as she looked at me, then she nodded firmly. "All right, as long as you're happy, we'll do as you say." When we got home, I gathered up everything connected to Ethan and threw it all into the yard. From the very bottom of my drawer, I took out the jade bracelet his mother had once given me and handed it to my mom. "Please return this to them." 18 years of being childhood sweethearts had been no match for half a year of Lisa Miller's presence. It wasn't until he slapped me across the face that I truly woke up. How could he so casually hurt me? It wasn't because he had the right, it was because I had given it to him myself. It was all my fault, being too naive, too easy. He must have thought that no matter what he did, even if he hit me, I would cling to him like a stubborn patch, never letting go. I watched the pile of gifts he had once given me, watched the photos of us together, one by one, consumed by the flames. For the first time, I realized how ugly Ethan looked in those pictures. The phoenix eyes that had once made my heart race, the thin lips that had once left me breathless, now all I saw was someone cold, unfeeling, and heartless. Without my love for him, there was nothing about him worth remembering. As the fire devoured each photo, I felt lighter, freer with every crackle of the flames. I asked my parents to let me take a few days off school to focus on studying with a private tutor. No more mocking laughter, no more of Lisa's noise. I poured myself into my books, determined to widen the distance between me and them. That afternoon, Ethan's mother came to our house. The moment she stepped through the door, she burst into tears. From the second floor, I faintly heard her sobbing and held my breath, listening quietly from the stairwell. "Lillian, we've known each other for over 35 years. The kids were always meant to be engaged after graduation. They're just like a young married couple having a spat. Why did you have to call the police? Now you've made Mr. Foster cut off cooperation with our company. The college entrance exams are coming soon. Please don't let Ethan end up with a criminal record. We'll pay as much as you want. Can't you just sign the reconciliation papers?" she cried. My mother, who was always so gentle, now looked as cold as ice, her voice sharp as a blade. "An engagement? Chi Thompson, are you daydreaming in broad daylight? Look at my daughter's swollen face, and you dare to ask me for a reconciliation agreement?" She called out, "Nina, come down here. Let your Aunt Chi see for herself what her son has done." With Auntie Lee supporting me, I walked down the stairs slowly, each step heavy. My pale face carried the clear imprint of a red handprint on my left cheek, and my exhausted body leaned against my mother. Mrs. Thompson froze, her expression a mix of shock and pity. "Nina, are you feeling any better?" she asked. I didn't bother to reply. I only leaned on my mother's shoulder, closing my eyes as if I didn't hear her. My mother gave a cold laugh, her voice cutting like steel. "If it weren't for the years of friendship between our families, I wouldn't have even woken my daughter to face you. Do you understand now why I had to call the police? My daughter was nearly harmed to the point of losing her life by your son. As parents, Are we not allowed to protect her? What's so wrong about ending cooperation? How many times has your company faced crisis, and wasn't it always the foster family who stepped in to save you? Who knew we'd been raising a snake in our sleeve, helping such an ungrateful family? If not for my daughter, the Fosters would never have lifted a hand to support your failing company. Then, she slammed the jade bracelet into Mrs. Thompson's hands. Here. The bracelet you gave my daughter, we're returning it. This engagement is over. Our family will not accept a son-in-law who raises his hand against his fiancée. And you know as well as I do, the college entrance exam is near. Your son, for the sake of his girlfriend, not only hit my daughter, but also allowed her to publicly attack and humiliate her. She humiliated my daughter. Do you have any idea how much damage she's caused her? My mother's voice cut through the air like a blade. The college entrance exam is only 2 months away, yet thanks to your son, my child suffered a concussion. She's dizzy all the time, and some days she can't even get out of bed. Do you understand? Because of your son, she might not even be able to sit for the exam. Whatever ties once existed between our families are gone. If there's business to discuss, speak with my husband. As for me, I won't entertain you any further. Please leave. Mrs. Thompson's face stiffened in embarrassment. It was clear she wanted to admit fault, but my mother didn't even give her the courtesy of a glance. She simply turned away and walked upstairs with resolute steps. Lillian, I already asked Ethan. That girl isn't his girlfriend, just an ordinary classmate. That day was just an accident. Mrs. Thompson cried after her in desperation, but the only answer she received was the cold silhouette of my mother's back. At last, I no longer had to face Ethan Walker day and night. It felt like a heavy burden had been lifted off me, leaving me lighter than I had ever been. On the way to school, I happened to run into the class president. He looked surprised for a moment, then suddenly broke into a bright smile. Unable to stop himself, he said, Well, why is the young lady here? I froze. Why are you calling me young lady, class president? He stumbled over his words, quickly trying to cover it up. Ah, slip of the tongue. You moved to this neighborhood already? I nodded with a faint smile. Yes, I really didn't want to keep seeing certain people anymore. He nodded back and we rode our bikes to school together. As we were parking, my eyes suddenly locked with Ethan's. The moment he saw me walking beside the class president, his face changed. The marks from Auntie Lee's slap were still visible. Dark circles clung under his eyes, and he looked utterly worn out. Nina, I want to talk to you, he said quietly. The class president gave me a worried glance, but I nodded slightly, signaling him to go ahead. Even then, he kept looking back, reluctant to leave. I gave him a reassuring smile until he finally disappeared from sight. Seeing me agree, Ethan's previously dull eyes lit up with sudden hope. He led me toward the small grove beside the sports field, but I yanked my hand free and snapped, Don't touch me. Say what you have to say, and don't waste my time. I need to study. It was still early, the area quiet and empty. Nina, I already went to the police station. The compensation has been settled. Can you stop being angry now? Let's go back to the way we were. Here, this is the family jade bracelet. Take it. Didn't we promise to get engaged after graduation, to apply to the same university together? His voice was thick with urgency as he held it out. I gave a cold laugh, meeting his eyes without flinching. Ethan Walker, are you daydreaming in broad daylight? Do you really think you're worthy of me? A two-faced, heartless man like you, how could I ever marry such a violent person? He hadn't expected me to say those words. His face flushed crimson, and he froze in shock, looking completely at a loss. The scene reminded me of the only other time I had ever seen him so flustered, back when we first entered middle school. That day after class, I had been struck by such severe stomach pain that I clutched him, crying in panic. Ethan, what do I do? I'm dying. There's blood everywhere. He had been just as red-faced and bewildered then, stammering before running to buy sanitary pads, fumbling as he explained how to use them. I shook my head hard, forcing myself out of those rotting old memories. They were nothing but decay now, filthy scraps I didn't need to cling to. So I spoke clearly, cutting the last tie between us. Let's make it plain, Ethan. From the moment you started getting close to Lisa Miller, you must have noticed that I was slowly distancing myself from you. I thought that even if we couldn't be lovers, After more than 10 years of friendship, we could still remain ordinary friends. Because our families were close, I believed that for our parents' sake, with exams approaching, we could just keep things peaceful. But you allowed Lisa to mock and belittle me. Worse, you even laughed along with her. I held back for the sake of your parents. But what happened? You kept pushing, even dared to hit me. Everything that's happened today, Ethan Walker, you brought it on yourself. Did you really think paying 50,000 yuan would settle this? Wake up. The reconciliation papers only exist because my parents are too kind. From now on, you and Lisa Miller can cling to each other all you want. If you see me, treat me like a stranger. Hearing that, he grabbed my hand, his eyes shifting from guilt to fury, his face flushed red. Is it worth it? Just because of one slap, you want to cut ties with me after all these years? At that moment, Caleb Chen suddenly appeared behind him and, without a word, kicked him hard. Ethan hadn't been on guard and fell straight to the ground. Are you okay, young lady? I was worried something might happen to you. Last time he dared to hit you, I was so afraid, Caleb said, his eyes sharp and murderous as he glared at Ethan. But when he turned back to me, his expression softened with caution, almost deferential. I grasped his hand and lowered my voice. Thank you. I was really scared just now. I'm glad you came in time. Ethan staggered to his feet, blood boiling, and shouted, You dare hit me? Who the hell do you think you are? Before he could finish, Caleb's fist smashed into his nose. Ethan stumbled back several steps, blood pouring down his face, as Caleb growled, Stay away from her, or I'll make sure you know what it feels like to be crippled. The sight of Caleb's cold face and ruthless blows sent a chill down my spine. So the quiet, seemingly gentle class president was capable of fighting like a street thug. Those moves, quick, precise, familiar, were clearly the kind only someone used to brawling would know. In that instant, I realized he was far from simple. I silently reminded myself that it was best to keep a cautious distance from him in the future. Nina, we've known each other for so many years. Just because of one slap, you really want to end everything? Ethan's nose dripped blood, staining his shirt deep red. He staggered forward, staring at me with a look both pleading and desperate. I drew in a steady breath and answered firmly. Yes, it's over. You think it was just a slap? What about the keychain I gave you, that you gave to her? Was that how cheap I was to you? Was your family so poor you couldn't even buy your girlfriend a gift, so you gave her mine? And what about my cup? You gave it to her, and she poured milk into it, even though you knew I'm allergic. You let it happen. And in the end, you even hit me. The rage in me flared, uncontrollable. My hand flew across his cheek in a sharp slap. Ethan's eyes widened in disbelief as I sneered. How does it feel to be hit, Ethan Walker? Satisfying? Remember this well. Just seeing your face now makes me sick to my stomach. Get out of my sight. He roared, his voice trembling with fury. Nina Foster, how many times have I explained, and you still don't get it? Fine. If you want to believe I'm with her, then so be it. But I'll make sure you regret it. His shout echoed behind me, but I didn't bother to look back. I walked straight ahead, head held high, leaving everything behind. The very next day, Ethan Walker and Lisa Miller openly declared they were officially together. Watching the scene, I felt absolutely nothing. Even as the whole class buzzed, teasing and gossiping, I sat beside Caleb, quietly discussing how to solve a difficult math problem. The truth was, from the very first day Lisa transferred in, she had acted far too familiar with Ethan. Every word, every glance they exchanged made it clear. They had known each other long before. And more than that, she had never truly tried to blend in with the other girls in class. Lisa Miller herself once said bluntly, I don't like hanging out with girls. They're such a hassle. I only like being with guys. Around them, you don't have to overthink everything. But girls? Their hearts are too complicated. Say the wrong thing once and they'll hold it against you. Because of that one comment, the girls in class avoided her even more. She was a girl who openly insulted other girls as being troublesome. Who would want to be friends with someone like that? And yet, when we deliberately kept our distance, Lisa would suddenly act pitiful in front of everyone, saying, See? I told you they're all so petty. Now they really hate me. Then she would roll her eyes, putting on a look of indifference. Whatever, I'm used to it. What's the big deal about being ostracized by a few groups of girls? It was obvious she didn't like socializing and had been the one to call us annoying, but the moment she was ignored, she would cry and complain, painting herself as the victim and accusing us of excluding her. I remember once, during recess in our junior year, a few girls gathered to vent about Lisa's fake, manipulative ways. Everyone was annoyed. Right then, Ethan Walker passed by and caught a few words. He immediately glared at us, his tone cold. "You're all classmates. At the very least, you should respect each other. Don't badmouth someone behind their back." His sudden intervention left us speechless, the air heavy with awkwardness. It was only much later that it struck me. What did our conversation about Lisa have to do with Ethan? But when I looked toward the back row, the answer hit me like a stone. Lisa was sitting close beside him, earnestly tutoring him in English. She liked basketball, blended easily with the boys, and quickly made her way into Ethan's tight-knit circle of friends. From the start, he had seemed a little annoyed by her boldness, but soon enough that annoyance turned into curiosity, then fascination. He was drawn to her. He had once warned me not to stick to him too closely, saying he was afraid of classmates gossiping. But when it came to Lisa Miller, suddenly everything was an exception. During class, the two of them often slipped each other little notes, laughing quietly together. After class, the back seat of Ethan's bike was always occupied by Lisa, her radiant smile shining as if she belonged there. In the past, every one of those moments would have pierced my heart like a knife. But ever since he coldly told me, "If you want to cry, go home, don't disturb the whole class," something inside me woke up. I realized there was nothing left about him worth feeling sad for. Ethan's words had cut into me like a blade, and I often found myself wondering, why did I ever allow someone like him to hurt me? What gave him that right? Sometimes, I would see him walking into class hand in hand with Lisa, her face glowing with happiness, but her eyes full of deliberate provocation as she looked straight at me. She would sneer, "I'm Ethan's real girlfriend, not like certain people who only cling to him because of family connections." The entire classroom fell silent. Everyone knew how close the Walker and Foster families had been, that Ethan and I had grown up together. Her words were nothing less than a public humiliation. Lisa continued, "Oh, and I know some girls like to run tattling to the teachers, but I'm warning you, whoever dares to report us for dating, I won't let it slide." All eyes in the room turned toward me, but I didn't bother to react. I kept my head down, calmly working through practice problems, reviewing the questions I was most likely to miss. To me, they were nothing but a bunch of immature children. The college entrance exam loomed closer, my workload multiplying by the day. Meanwhile, Ethan Walker and Lisa Miller grew more and more reckless, wrapped up in each other, as if the rest of the world no longer existed. Even in class, while the teacher was lecturing, the two of them would sneak kisses, as if the immense pressure of the college entrance exam meant nothing to them. After school, the moment they stepped out of the gates, they clung to each other in full view of the crowd, as though afraid others wouldn't know they were in love. I truly couldn't understand it. Most couples in high school dated in secret, like members of some underground society, always afraid teachers might find out. But Ethan Walker and Lisa Miller were the exact opposite. They seemed desperate to shout their love to the world. And Ethan, instead of stopping her, let her do whatever she pleased. The distance between him and me grew wider and wider, like two parallel lines that could never meet. I often studied with Caleb Chen since we lived in the same neighborhood. And because of that, gossip quickly spread that we were dating. I only gave a faint laugh and never bothered to deny it, and Caleb didn't explain either. He was the type of cold, studious top student who never paid attention to such pointless rumors anyway. With less than 20 days left before the college entrance exam, I had no time, no energy to waste on idle chatter. I threw myself into studying with almost obsessive intensity. Every day my mother worriedly urged me, "Nina, stop studying, go get some sleep." I understood her concern, but to me, time never felt like enough. This exam wasn't just a test, it was a battle of revenge, my only way to leave those two behind. I was determined to get into a prestigious university and widen the gap between us forever. I thought Ethan and I would never cross paths again. But that day after school, right outside the gates, he suddenly blocked my way. "Lisa didn't come to school today," he said, his tone wavering between concern and reproach. I frowned, baffled by his behavior. "What does that have to do with me? Shouldn't you be at her house instead of blocking my way here?" Ethan shot back bluntly. "Did you go looking for her?" I let out a mocking laugh. "Am I crazy, or is it your brain that's broken? Why would I waste my time talking to that mad dog? As long as she doesn't mess with me, I should already be thanking the heavens. Why would I seek her out?" His suspicious gaze lingered, refusing to believe me. "But last night, when I walked her home, everything was fine. This morning, she suddenly skipped school. I called her, and she was crying, saying she did something wrong and begged me not to be angry. Did you send someone to threaten her?" My temper snapped. "Are you insane? Idiot. Get out of my sight." I turned to leave, unwilling to waste another word, but Ethan grabbed my wrist roughly, blocking my way. "Nina, I know you're upset about me and Lisa being together, but you don't need to hurt her. Didn't you say you wanted to treat me like a stranger? You regret it now, don't you? If you just apologize to me and Lisa, we can still go back to how things were." Before he could finish, I exploded, cutting him off. "Are you sick? Let go of me. I've never seen anyone as full of himself as you. Go home, look in the mirror. Do you see anything worth liking in yourself anymore? Nothing. You're arrogant, delusional trash. I'm begging you, hurry up and marry Lisa Miller. Honestly, only she deserves garbage like you." His face turned stormy, his complexion dark as iron. The look in his eyes was so fierce, it felt like he wanted to swallow me alive. He tightened his grip on my wrist until it hurt, making me wince. I met his gaze coldly and warned, "Don't forget the police report. My mother already said if you or Lisa dare to cause trouble for me again, we'll have you both sent straight there." At those words, Ethan Walker's hand trembled, and only then did he finally release me. Just then, a steady voice sounded behind me. "Nina, you're not home yet?" I turned to see Caleb Chen. The usual gentleness on his face was gone, replaced by a stern, cold look as his eyes cut straight to Ethan. "Ethan Walker, stay away from Nina. To her, seeing you now feels no different than seeing milk." The instant he said milk, my stomach churned on reflex. A wave of nausea rose in me, and my face twisted in discomfort. That single reaction made Caleb's words hit even harder. Ethan froze, his face turning pale as he stumbled back several steps. Caleb calmly led his bike forward and walked with me away from the school gates. On the way back, my heart still raced wildly. It wasn't until we entered the apartment complex that I managed to speak, flustered. "Class president, thank you for stepping in for me." We walked side by side, our bicycles rolling together. When we stopped at the base of my building, he tilted his head slightly, a rare smile curving his lips. "If you really want to thank me, then from now on, call me by my name." I froze for a few seconds, my mind going blank. I vaguely remembered his surname was Chen. Up until now, everyone had always called him Class President Chen. Even I had never heard anyone call him by his full name. He almost never spoke up in class either, and whenever he did raise his hand, it was usually to correct the teacher's mistakes. Someone like him, if not for the coincidence of us sharing a desk, I probably never would have spoken to much in my entire life. I strained to recall, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't remember his full name. Caleb just smiled, the warmth returning to his expression. "My name is Caleb Chen," he said. Then he gently took my hand and wrote the 2 characters of his name in my palm, each stroke firm and deliberate. His seriousness made me pause. "Caleb Chen, I'm not interested in dating. If those rumors from our classmates make you uncomfortable, I'll explain things clearly to them," I said. He replied evenly, "Good. Because I'm not interested in dating either. Let's just focus on getting into a good university together." He held his hand out to me. Hearing that, my eyes lit up. I clasped his hand tightly, smiling in relief. "Caleb, we really are like-minded. Only 10 days left, let's do our best together." The next morning, Ethan came to class with his face swollen and one leg limping. Oh man, Ethan got unlucky again? This is the 3rd time he's been beaten up. He just recovered from the last one. How did he get messed up again? Whispers filled the classroom. I glanced sideways at the desk beside me, where Caleb usually sat with his usual cold, unreadable expression. But this time, the corner of his mouth tilted into a faint smile. It was the first time I had ever seen him smile. For a moment, I couldn't look away. "Class president, your smile is beautiful," I murmured without thinking. The tips of his ears turned red instantly, and I couldn't help but laugh out loud. My laughter made Caleb's smile wider, and his grin was so bright that it lit up the whole classroom like a burst of warmth. While Ethan and Lisa Miller flaunted their shallow love in front of everyone, Caleb and I poured every hour, every minute into our studies. One afternoon, when the whole class ran outside to play, only the two of us remained in the back row, sitting close together, whispering over problems. The homeroom teacher walked in quietly, thinking he had caught us dating in secret. He crept closer, careful not to make a sound, only to hear Caleb scolding softly, "You're not concentrating on this one. Look at it again. It's the same kind of mistake you made last time." Flustered, I hurriedly opened my notebook of wrong answers. Sure enough, it was the same type of problem. I tapped myself on the forehead, ashamed and regretful. If this had been the real college entrance exam, I would have. One careless mistake like that could cost me hundreds of ranks. All I could do was bow my head in shame, too guilty to speak. Our homeroom teacher ended up spreading the story across the entire class, holding Caleb Chen up as a shining example. Not only were his grades exceptional, but he was patient enough to teach his classmates, shouldering responsibility that even the teachers didn't. When the college entrance exam finally ended, the months of tension wound tight in me like a stretched string finally snapped loose. I slept for 3 days and 3 nights straight. I had never realized how completely a battle fought with everything I had could drain me. My mother couldn't bear to wake me. After the exam, my parents took me on a trip to Haicheng, a coastal city with endless skies and sparkling seas. Even the breeze carried the taste of freedom. My dad happily took pictures of me and my mom, our laughter echoing everywhere. In that moment, I realized this was the life I had always longed for. Simple peace, filled with warmth. Even though I'd slathered on sunscreen, my skin still darkened quite a bit. Before the exam results were even released, an unexpected call came through. "Hello, is this the parent of Nina Foster?" I answered the phone. "Yes, this is. We're calling from the admissions office of Tsinghua University. May I ask if your family has considered enrolling Nina here? She would have her choice of majors." My father was stunned. "The results are out already?" "The official announcement will come in 2 days. But Nina performed exceptionally well this year, ranking at the very top of our special admissions list." My father's eyes widened in disbelief. He had always known my grades kept me in the top 50 at school, strong enough to secure a spot at a 985 university. But he had never imagined his daughter would bring home such a surprise. "We agree, of course we agree," he said at once. Our joy was interrupted by a sudden knock at the door. Auntie Lee opened it to reveal a deep male voice. "Excuse me, is Nina Foster home?" Auntie Lee turned back, her face brimming with amusement. "Young miss, someone's here for you. A real gentleman too, so handsome," she teased, even winking at my mother. When my father stepped out and saw Caleb, he asked casually, "Son, have you gotten your results yet?" "Yes, sir. I didn't do so well this time, only ranked 20th in the province." My mother, who had been so composed, immediately brightened. Her whole face lit up, her demeanor turning warm and enthusiastic in an instant. "Auntie Lee, hurry and bring water and some fruit," she ordered, clearly treating him as an honored guest. "What school are you planning to choose?" my father asked. Caleb smiled, his gaze steady, his tone natural. "I wanted to discuss it with Nina. How about we both apply to Tsinghua together? If my score is a little short, I could ask the school to let me in as an attached admission under her quota." The moment my mother heard that, her expression changed completely. This wasn't just some ordinary classmate of her daughter's. This was clearly a benefactor sent by heaven. My father stayed calm, but my mother was already looking at Caleb like he was her future son-in-law, more pleased with him the longer she looked. Polite, mature, thoughtful, everything she could possibly want. Flustered, I quickly cut in. "That's not necessary. Thanks, class president. The school just called earlier to say I already got in directly. Let's go outside and talk." Caleb nodded lightly, then turned to my parents with respectful courtesy. "Uncle, Auntie, today's our class's last gathering, so I came to pick Nina up. Next time, if there's a chance, I'd love to sit down and talk longer. Thank you for having me. His humility only made my mother even fonder of him, her eyes practically burning with the thought of marrying me off right then and there. All I could do was smile helplessly, tug Caleb out of the house, and sigh inwardly. Mom, I haven't even started university yet, and you're already worrying about my marriage? I finally let out a long breath of relief. If you hadn't come out when you did, my mom probably would have hunted down your home address by now. Caleb Chen chuckled softly. You don't need to cover for me. I was happy to talk with your parents. Oh, did you check the class group chat? They booked a private room at Jiannan restaurant. It'll be our last gathering before everyone goes their separate ways. I blinked in surprise, then nodded. I'd just come back from the trip and hadn't read the messages. All right, let's go together then. When we stepped into the private room at Jiannan, nearly everyone was already there. The tables were filled with food, fruit, soda, and alcohol. The moment Caleb and I walked in together, the whole room erupted with teasing. Hey, class president, come clean. Do you secretly like Nina? I knew it. I've seen him tutor her one-on-one too many times. The way he looks at her, there's no way that's just about studying. Confess already. Hurry up. The atmosphere was livelier than I'd ever seen it. After months of suffocating tension, our class finally relaxed. Even the quietest students couldn't hide their joy. The hardest year of our lives was finally behind us. Suddenly, Caleb picked up the restaurant microphone. His long, narrow eyes curved slightly as they fixed on me, shimmering with a clear, unwavering light. Yes, I've liked her for a long time. Nina Foster, will you be my girlfriend? The room froze solid. At that exact moment, the sound of shattering glass rang out. Ethan Walker had crushed a cup in his hand, blood streaming from his palm. Lisa Miller panicked, scrambling to wipe it with napkins, her face full of worry, but Caleb didn't even glance their way. Calmly, he pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. Inside was a dazzling diamond ring. I was stunned. The serious, quiet class president, the one who rarely spoke, was suddenly standing there, boldly confessing in front of everyone. I had no idea how to respond. Instinctively, I grabbed Caleb's hand and pulled him out of the private room. The door had barely opened when Ethan shoved Lisa aside and blocked my path. Nina, my hand's hurt. Will you help me bandage it? I laughed coldly. What a joke, who did he think he was? Sorry, Ethan, I can't help you. Isn't your girlfriend standing right there? I'm sure she'd be more than happy to do it. Without another glance, I tightened my grip on Caleb's hand and walked forward. Behind me, Ethan's hoarse voice rang out. Nina, I don't have a girlfriend. She's not my girlfriend. I stopped for half a second, then answered icily, whether you do or don't has nothing to do with me. From now on, stay away from me. I don't want to see you ever again. With that, I dragged Caleb to a quiet corner. Looking up at him, I said clearly, Caleb, I need you to understand. I'm not interested in love. Truly. I know, he said softly. But can I at least stand at the front of the line? I don't need anything else. Just being by your side is enough for me. His earnest face left me helpless, and I nodded. He smiled faintly. Then, can I put the ring on you now? I'll be your fake boyfriend to shield you from Ethan and Lisa. I couldn't help but laugh. Caleb, you really plan everything out, don't you? My eyes lit up as I slipped the ring onto my finger. Hand in hand, we walked back into the private room. The curious stares that exploded around us only made the atmosphere buzz with even more excitement. Ethan stormed over and tried to yank me away, but I shoved his hand off firmly and turned to Lisa with disdain. Lisa, please take your boyfriend home. Her lips curled bitterly. Nina Foster, the truth is Ethan's always liked you. I sneered. Liked me? You mean liked hitting me? Sorry, but I'm not interested in your boyfriend. I have one now. I lifted my glass and said evenly, sorry to ruin the mood tonight. I'll toast everyone once, but really, I don't want to see those two for another second. Next time we meet, I hope you all eat well and have fun. After finishing my words, I picked up the glass of water on the table, tilted my head back, and drained it. Then I nodded politely to everyone before leaving with Caleb Chen. My classmates all understood the history between me and Ethan Walker, and the way they looked at me was full of sympathy. Once outside, I let out a long breath. Thanks for today, class president. Really, I don't want to see those two ever again. Caleb only gave a small nod, his eyes clear as though he had already understood everything long ago. I did well on the college entrance exam, and my father decided to host a banquet to celebrate my admission. That day, I hadn't planned to invite classmates, afraid they might think I was showing off. But to my surprise, Caleb appeared. Later, I learned my mother had run into him in our neighborhood and personally invited him. As I followed my father around, toasting table after table, I suddenly caught sight of Ethan's family. They looked so much older, so worn down. Even Mrs. Walker, who had always lived in comfort and luxury, now carried visible exhaustion in her face. I ignored them entirely, walking past without even raising my glass. On my way back from the restroom, I happened to overhear Mr. Walker speaking to my father in a low, deferential tone. "Mr. Foster, please, could you lend a hand? Without an investment this time, my company really will go bankrupt." My father's reply was cool and firm. "I'm sorry, Mr. Walker, my side is struggling as well right now." Mr. Walker quickly changed his tone, dragging in old ties to plead. "Ethan still loves Nina. For the sake of our family's bond, could you?" But my father cut him off, smiling faintly, though his words were sharp as a blade. "No need for that, Mr. Walker. You saw for yourself tonight. The young man standing beside my daughter is her boyfriend. He's also been admitted to Tsinghua. And Ethan, what university did he manage to get into?" The question landed like a heavy slap. The air tightened, suffocating. Standing not far away, I took in the scene, and a rush of satisfaction surged through me like never before. "This time, he didn't do well," Mr. Walker admitted, his voice bitter. "Ethan's planning to repeat the year." My father only nodded calmly. "Then he should work harder. As for the company, I truly can't help. You know, all my funds are tied up in real estate. I don't have the spare capital." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving Mr. Walker trailing behind with his head bowed in defeat. From a distance, I watched it all, a cold sneer curling inside me. Just as I expected, Ethan had clung to me only to use my father. A fox begging a rooster for New Year's blessings, it was never going to end well. Time slipped quietly by, and college life unfolded in its colorful, vibrant way. With Caleb's steady companionship, I gradually let go of the memories that weren't worth holding on to. After graduation, Caleb and a few friends began their own startup, while I chose to continue with graduate school, focusing intently on the path I truly wanted. I loved that simple, steady rhythm of life. Whatever decisions I made, Caleb never once opposed me. He simply stood quietly behind me, offering his support. Time passed softly, like grains of sand slipping through my fingers. Only after experiencing Ethan Walker did I truly understand. Love sometimes means placing your fragile heart in someone else's hands, only to have it trampled. That was why I didn't want to, and didn't dare, open my heart again. But Caleb was different. He was like water, quiet, patient, and persistent, flowing gently yet steadfastly into my life. He did everything a boyfriend should do, but never once crossed the line, never once forced me. Until the year we graduated from college. That day I had a high fever and couldn't catch a taxi no matter how long I waited. Without a word, Caleb Chen carefully wrapped a blanket around me, then carried me on his back all the way to the hospital. By the time we arrived, his shirt was drenched in sweat, but he was still tense and anxious as he cared for me. Leaning weakly against his shoulder, my voice hoarse and trembling, I finally whispered, "Caleb, will you be my boyfriend?" In that instant, his eyes lit up, and his smile burst like fireworks. "Finally, my princess is willing to make it official with me." "Really? After 4 years of waiting, it hasn't been easy." I laughed softly against his chest, relief and warmth filling me at the same time. Over the years, I had come to know Caleb deeply. He was independent and strong, someone who faced every hardship alone. But when it came to me, no matter how small the matter, he always noticed first, and quickly found a way to solve it. I still remember once when my roommate and I were studying at the library. We stepped outside only to realize my laptop was missing. Before I could even panic, Caleb had already found out, immediately contacted security, and requested the surveillance footage. Luckily, the person who had taken it by mistake turned out to be someone Caleb knew. With just one phone call, less than half an hour later, my laptop was safely returned to my hands. Later, I learned that Caleb had quietly won over my entire dormitory, so that the moment I encountered any problem, he would know right away and come to help. In my eyes, love had never been a necessity. Without love, I could still live well, still go far. Ever since Ethan Walker, I felt like I had lost the ability to love. Deep inside, I was always afraid that a sincere heart would only end up crushed. During our junior year of college, I had bluntly told Caleb, "Don't wait for me anymore. I really don't want to date. I'm afraid I'll hold you back from your future." But he only smiled, his voice calm yet resolute. "As long as you let me love you, as long as you let me stay by your side, that's already the greatest happiness for me. I don't expect you to return the same. My princess, just don't push me away, okay?" Caleb always called me princess, just like Auntie Lee used to. I'd told him many times not to, but whenever he was anxious or worried, the words slipped out naturally. Every time it happened, I would pinch his ear and scold him with mock sternness, but he never managed to change. He laid out an entire future for me, with complete seriousness. During the years I pursued graduate school, Caleb covered every expense. At first I firmly refused, since my parents had already prepared enough for my tuition and living costs. But he persisted. "Use your parents' money for spending money. Tuition and living costs, please. Use the money I earned. Just knowing that my hard work can give you the chance to keep studying, that's already happiness enough for me." I never thought someone like him could exist in this world. Someone so patient, so gentle, someone who calculated everything for my sake and never once uttered a word of complaint. Perhaps fate had destined me to walk through the darkness named Ethan Walker before I could finally meet the radiant light of Caleb Chen. "Caleb, I'm tired," I whined softly, tugging at his arm as we walked. He chuckled, his gaze brimming with affection he couldn't hide. He stuffed the things in his hands into his backpack, crouched down, and patted his back. "Come on, I'll carry you." Obediently, I climbed onto his back, wrapping my arms around his shoulders, my face pressed against the broad, familiar slope. This National Day holiday was special. I had just officially completed my graduate program, and he immediately whisked me away on a trip to relax. But as we walked down a busy street, I suddenly spotted a face I recognized. Ethan Walker. He looked much older now, disheveled and worn, bowing low before someone, his demeanor dripping with flattery and humiliation. Curious, I pointed him out to Caleb. He only cast a brief glance, the corner of his lips curling slightly, his tone indifferent, but laced with a faint shadow. "Do you want me to take you over to greet your old acquaintance?" I laughed and shook my head quickly. "No, it's just surprising. I never thought he'd end up like this. So, what about him and her now?" Caleb gave a faint, almost mocking smile. "I heard he's working as a real estate broker these days. Got married, then divorced, and Lisa Miller? Even worse. Word is, she's messing around with one of his closest friends." My eyes widened as I covered my mouth. "Oh my God, shocking news like that, and you dared to keep it from me?" He narrowed his eyes at me, his tone half teasing, half jealous. "So you still care about your ex, huh?" Caught off guard, I immediately realized he was jealous. Wrapping my arms tightly around his neck, I said firmly, "Ex? What ex? I only remember ever having one boyfriend, and that's you. As for Ethan, at most, he was just some childhood friend." At my words, Caleb's faint smile softened into pure tenderness. The corners of his lips lifted, his eyes curved like a crescent moon. "All right then. If you're tired, just sleep. I'm right here." Hearing his voice, breathing in his familiar scent, I quickly drifted off into a strangely peaceful sleep. And I thought to myself, maybe in this lifetime, being able to walk the whole road with Caleb Chen was the greatest blessing I could ever have.